Hey guys, hey folks, hope you're well. So catch up time, haven't been on. Apologies. Um, the reality is that I've been down a rabbit hole helping Brad Goss with his Brad Goss Studios stuff, and so I partnered with Brad on all of his crypto launches, and the harsh reality is it's not a bad thing, but the reality is that took time to do. And I think it's a good thing always round, but that's what's happened. So, moving forward with Real Entrepreneur, still here. Um, the plans are still the same, albeit delayed. The reality is looking at the pump fun system and being into it now for a couple of months. I realised I've made some errors in the launch of this token, but we are going to get more consistent. We are going to be doing more lives. We are going to be sticking to the plan for Real Entrepreneur. I am going to be implementing the token gating for the Telegram community, similar to what Brad's doing. If you own a certain amount of tokens, you can come into our group, and that's going to get you access to things as they happen and heads up on what's going on before they happen. Um, I've kind of stood back whilst being in the thick of it with working with Brad. So, as I said, anything that Brad does crypto related, pump fund related, I'm partnering with him on to help him get done. And you know what he's got? If you don't know about Brad, go and check out the Brad Goss token. Um, he's the first creator with all his own memes. He's got 170 books, and he owns the IP and the copyright to them all. And that's a hell of an opportunity. But the reality is, I'm not entirely sure. We're not entirely sure the best way of playing it. We put out some. We put out a few memes to test. The Crypto Cock one did okay, and then it got pumped by somebody, some group, not sure. And I'm a numbers guy, and I've been looking at the numbers in this, and the reality is you see the money floating around, and I know the numbers are nowhere near as big as they were earlier on in the pump fund era, but at the end of the day, there's still $1 million a day being generated by creators, and you kind of figure out, well, what's the best play. I've been examining. I've been with Brad studying launches. 80% of the launches are just rug pulls, automated, botted rug pulls of different strategies. And I guess it's trying to come back to what the original plan is. Now, for me, the plan is still the plan, albeit delayed. Real Entrepreneur is going to be a thing, and it's one of them. It's like the type of person I am. I'm partnering with Brad on this stuff, and I can see the potential there. But at the same time, I've got to remind myself that Real Entrepreneur is happening, and from a pump fund point of view, what is the best way of doing this? And reading between the lines, I posted on X that we got took for 2 Solana with a scammer. And reading between the lines, there's just so much crap out there, but it's the crap that's seemingly making the money. The real stuff isn't making the money, which defies all logic, really. Um, so, enough talking. What am I going to do? I'm going to implement the collab land in the next few days. There'll be a separate group in there, and we will be putting own X amount of the real entrepreneur tokens, and you get access to all the other stuff I'm doing. You know, that's the first thing I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be redoing the token page. You know, I haven't told any of my existing customers about this. And if I'm absolutely honest, the reason I haven't done that is because I don't want to bring my customers into the Pump Fund directly into Pump Fund ecosystem. Because for mainstream non-crypto people, that isn't the right thing to do. This is not the right place to introduce them to this whole token. So, you know, along the lines of, well, the token as its own thing, you've got to then direct them to my token page. I think you've got to, yes, still live stream on Pump Fun, but actually get them buying the token when you are ready to introduce them to it. Just buy it somewhere else outside of Pump Fun. And I think that's the play that's got to happen. It's been a learning curve for sure. Would I have done things majorly different launching this token? Yeah, I would. But you live and you learn. You know, the harsh reality is there's not that many holders of this token. But we continue, and nothing easy happens overnight. You know, nothing worth doing happens overnight, long-term plan-wise. So it's been a somewhat confusing few weeks, but nonetheless, the plan is still the plan. And the more, you know, I was in a X space last night with Brad, listening to Brad, and the more and more I actually hear people in this space on these groups, and it was a really good X space yesterday. I actually think that actually what I'm planning to do with Real Entrepreneur and what I'm planning to offer actually is much needed in this space. People in this area, in this field of crypto, need the help of what I can offer with Real Entrepreneur. I am going to get a regular schedule done. Everything I said I'm going to do, but it's delayed. And I don't really apologize. I do apologize from a current holder's point of view. Not that there's that many. But at the same time, I've not just been sitting here thumb up my ass doing nothing. Working with Brad on this stuff has actually taught me a lot about this particular ecosystem. Like I've said before, I've been in crypto, albeit not for the last 2 years, but for a long time. So I know how this stuff works. But this Pump Fund system, platform, is a whole different ball game. You know, it blows my mind. I watched a launch yesterday. It was a slow rug pull, and they made $11,000 in creator fees, and it took about 3 hours. It was a 3-hour thing, and then just killed it. Done. I'm big into analyzing wallets and stuff and seeing what was made. You know, it's like the crypto cock pump that happened a couple of Sundays ago. You know, whoever was behind that made 20-25 grand out of doing that. Now, we're not complaining because it bumped the creator fees up a great deal for Crypto Cock and for Brad Goss Studios. But it's just like what realistically, you know, the idea of Brad, as an example, launching his mem tokens, what realistically is it going to take for this, if ever it can happen, to become a mainstream platform that's just not full of rug pulls? And equally, do Pump care? Because they're doing an average of $1 million